Hey guys, this is Miko here. I have been getting a lot of requests lately asking me how I do hair. And the reason people keep asking me this is probably because they actually like that part of my drawings. And so I thought I would take the time after, doing a Facebook poll and asking some people on some different social media what they wanted to see. And everybody agreed that they wanted to see a video of how I draw hair. And so with that in mind, I have decided to, indulge everybody and give you guys a little, this is how I do it. I'm not going to call it a tutorial because, frankly, we've seen my body proportions. They're not the best. So this is just going to be this is how Miko draws hair kind of thing. And I gotta start out with giving my character a little, a face or something. So I have something to put the hair on. And so, yeah, we're gonna do something with hair for once. And give everybody a kind of this is how I do it. So, to kind of go into the basics of how I do things here, I actually got a lot of my inspiration from, other YouTube artists and videos and stuff, because, YouTube's your friend when you want to learn how to draw. I'm not gonna lie, YouTube has been a huge help for learning how to use this flipping tablet of mine, which I spent a lot of money on, so, I gotta learn how to use it. Anyways, it was kind of a high school graduation to me thing. So, to start with hair, obviously, you always do an outline or a background first. And I try to make it really detailed, I guess. I want the character, I want to know where the hair is in correlation to the rest of the character. And, compared to, the rest of their body and stuff. So, basically just how it looks. So I'll always kind of do a first kind of a rough draft or whatever, and do stuff like this where I just kind of draw it out and see what I get. If I don't like it, I'll change it. For once, actually, I'm actually kind of happy with how it's turning out on the first kind of go, but I do generally give it a lot of detail when I do just the basic, introduction of drawing the hair. And so, there's the basic outline or whatever that I do. After I get everything kind of outlined and sketched, I usually do the eyes and stuff too, and blah blah blah, and the nose and all that. I usually go into a darker outline. So I'll actually go to what I call the vector layer. Well, what everybody calls a vector layer, because it's the vector layer. Hold on, I gotta delete this layer. Vector layers basically just make it so if you edit the size or whatever, the pixels stay basically the same. It just works differently than a normal layer, so I like them better. And I go over here to my mapping pen, and the way my mapping pen works is it stabilizes a lot better than my G pen or anything else. And so I use it to make a hard outline of my hair. So basically you go through and you do the outline and stuff and everything you want your hair to look like, whatever. And then you go through and do a very hard outline of the hair. And you don't want to go through and do the details on the vector layer, not the first one at least. You just kind of go through and do it, the very outline of it. As you can see, I'm not going through and I'm not going to go and make all the little details I added here. I'm just going through the very basic outline. And the reason I do this is because there's a fill tool on this thing that will fill inside this outline that I'm creating. And that will make it so much easier to do the hair than I'm about to do. And if you want to do it cartoony, all you have to do is do the fill tool after you do this outline, and then do in another layer, add the details and stuff. So it makes more concrete sense, I guess. But so, anyways, yeah, so just a basic outline first. followed later by everything else. So even without the, you want to make sure you close it off, obviously. So without the sketch, there's the hair. And then after you get the basic outline done, you go through and you add another layer. And this layer, I always have it so when I do my fill tool, I will fill it with a refer to other layers bucket so that it will refer to this black outline here on this other layer that is not under the black outline. And I want to say something before I get too hard into it. Colors like red, white, and black have a hard time doing this layering technique that I'm about to do. So you actually have to play around with it a lot more to get the colors you want. So I'm actually going to do her hair kind of like a blue. Because no, you know what? I'm going to do purple. I like purple. Purple is my favorite color, so we'll do purple. So anyways, there's the hard outline. And if I remove that, you have the outline now without the black. Or with the black, depending on what you want. I'm going to do without the black for now. So now I have this hard outline. And I have this color filled in. And as you can see, it's got minute details and everything. Like, everything's good. I'm going to go through and actually fill that little thing right there in. Because, you know, you don't want it to look like that. So there we go. And now actually you can go through. And with my G-pen, I'm actually going to add a little bit more detail to the outline of the hair. Because now is where you can make it really, like, realistic looking in the way of, like, how the hair sits. I don't know if you ever noticed in most people's hair, if you look at it, they have, like, little random strands that don't quite want to work with everybody else's. At least my hair does that. I don't know if there's some, like, girl out there who can get her hair perfectly flat. If she can, talk to me. Tell me how you did it. But I can't. So, you know, if you want the hair to look realistic, you can give it kind of these little random loose strands here that kind of help add that air of realism. And you want to make them kind of, you know, you see I'm stroking down and out. It's because you want the ends to be thinner than the beginning, just so they do what they're supposed to do. Here's where I'll kind of add the thing again, just to kind of give myself an idea of what I'm looking at. So now that you've had this hard outline and you've got everything kind of where you want it to be, you can go through and add the softer concepts, like the little tiny strands of hair that you want to showcase. Not really showcase, but like things that'll argue normally or whatever. And they'll be all over. Because that's just how hair is. Hair doesn't like to do whatever we tell it to. It likes to do what it likes to do, and that's how it's gonna be, and we just need to get used to it, basically. Which drives me insane. And I didn't like that, so I'm gonna edit it a little bit. Just gonna go bigger on my G-pen and kinda... So anyways, yeah, I'm just gonna go through and kind of finish adding these little strands of hair. That kind of give the hair more quality, more texture, more whatever. Honestly, you could rationalize it however you wanted and it would still be the same thing. It just makes it look better, in my opinion. So, there's that. And now that I've got that, I'm going to... Actually, I'm not done yet because I want to... Like, I really don't like these ends that don't look like they belong, I guess. These, like, hard cut lines. And I have a hard time drawing a certain way, so I have to flip my frame. And that's the other thing. You can rotate your art. Just remember to rotate it back. I've done that a couple of times. I've drawn the entire thing a certain way. And then, like, forgotten to rotate it back. And that always ends fantastic. I'm being sarcastic. Like, I'm sure you realize that, but I'm, like, being highly sarcastic. And actually, if I do it this way, then it looks like it's coming off the shoulder, kind of. So we're gonna pretend that this right here is behind the shoulder. We're gonna put a shoulder there. That's a shoulder now. It's a weird looking shoulder, but it's a shoulder. So now we have a shoulder. Yay, shoulder. Yeah. Okay, cool. Her neck is too thin. Shoulder's there. That works. Great. Now, on this next layer that I created, this is a normal layer. We're going to go here and we're going to do clip to the tray below. This will make it so no matter how you draw, it'll only draw on, we'll make the layer darker. It'll only draw on the layer below it. So, ta-da! That's my trade secret for how to do this. The nice part about the purple color is purple inherently is shades of itself. So you don't actually have to like change the shadowing much to work with purple, which I really like. So next we're going to go in and we're going to add some basic shading. We're going to add shading where the face would cover the hair. We're going to add shading where the hair would, you know, kind of layer over itself. Just some very basic stuff. Nothing hardcore or like overdrawn, I guess. Just, hold on. I still have those purples in there. But just some like very basic. I'm actually going to do it hard first. Like, very basic. This is how it might look. And I'm not getting super specific over like how the hair is going to lay yet or anything like that. If I wanted to, I could bring that beginning text back up and kind of look at it and see that maybe I didn't want this hair specifically like this, and I'm going to make that bigger because that's driving me insane. Okay. So we're going to go back through and see if we just look at this wonderful layer right here. We can see where we wanted the hair to layer better or differently, and then we can just kind of go along to match it and then drop it away again when we don't want it. And this makes it so like if you have ears or something in the way, you can just kind of work around the ears. And layering this way helps so that you can do different like things. Like you can do the skin tone on one layer and do different layering there. And like this is how I do most of my layering just because it's easier. I'm pretty sure a lot of artists do it this way. Like we do a ton of layers because layers are our friends. We like layers. Layers. We're like onions. We're like ogres. There you go, Disney. There's your shout out. Onions. I watched Shrek recently, so, you know, that's where that came from. So, anyways, yeah, I'm not going to get too overbearing with the shadowing here. But I do the shadows on one layer, and then the highlights on another, and the minor details, which you always want to do the minor details, but we'll finish the shadowing first. So we're just going to kind of, like, wham bam, there's the basic shadowing. And now we're going to blur it. Literally, blur it. It's just going to be blurred. So, like, you thought it was super detailed, right? You thought it was cool, yeah. Well, that was just to get a general idea. Now we're going to blur it. Because this is actually going to be under everything else. And actually, I don't want it that blurred, so, you know. We're going to blur it with filter, blur, Gaussian. I like my Gaussian blur. Because it will blur it in a way that makes it kind of more evenly distributed, I guess. Okay, there we go. So now we've got this Gaussian blur, right? And the studio I'm using, by the way, the thing I'm using is called Clip Studio Paint, which this is my friend. I like this. And so, yeah, so I'm using Clip Studio to kind of do my things. Okay, next layer. So the next layer I'm going to do is actually going to be a basic highlight layer. So this is where I'm going to add some, like, I did the low lights, and I'm going to do the highlights of the hair. This is where the light will be hitting it, or where, you know, it might be shinier than others. And again, you have to do the, as you can see, it ran off. If I open this layer, you'll see again that it runs off. Hold on. It's not working. There we go. See? But when you clip it to the layer below, it doesn't run off anymore. Take that, hair. Anyway, so I'm going to do some basic highlights here. Just to kind of like, this is where the light would hit the hair. And everyone goes, yeah, that makes sense. Because our hair isn't just one flat shade. It's kind of shiny. Because we wash it. I hope. So, we're going to do Gaussian blur again, and we're just going to go through and blur that until we're satisfied. There we go. Ta-da! And now you have a very basic purple hair so far. Now we're going to add another layer. There's so many layers. I know, it's insane. And this one is going to be dark, because this one we're going to go through, and this is where we add detail. This is going to be the first set of detail, and we're going to go through and we're going to give the hair some quality. And now that you see the shiny parts, and actually if we do it with an overlay, it will completely do something different. It'll not get too dark where it shines, as you see right there, and it'll work rather well with the general texture. So anyways, yeah. So now we've got this, and we're just going to go through and we're going to make individual strands, which is basically what this is. These are individual strands. And these will be the centerpiece of making it look realistic, because hair isn't one big clump like it looks like over here. It's individual strands like it seems like over here. So these individual strands will really give the hair some character and some basic depth that we really need. And because we have the shadowing already, you can kind of tell where the lines are supposed to be thicker versus where they're supposed to be thinner. Because when you draw, if you do really thin lines, it makes it look like it's, it's brighter, everything's kind of fading together. Where if you do thicker lines, it looks like the shadows are kind of taking over. And that's how you can kind of tell where the saturation and the depth is, I guess. I don't know. I don't really know how to explain that. That's just how I do it. If it's darker, add more lines. If it's lighter, add less lines. It just makes it look more put together, I guess. I've always drawn hair like that. I don't really know why. I think I've always done it because, middle school art, maybe? I loved middle school art class. I think that was fun for me. It was the only fun thing about middle school for me. So. Anyways, yeah. And, if you ever notice that, when people tuck their hair behind their ear, you probably notice me bending the hair here. When you tuck your hair behind your ear, it, makes the hair bend. Obviously, because you're, putting it at a new angle. So you want to, incorporate that angle into your hair. And always think about, the angle and shape of your head, or the head that you're working with, because that's also a huge factor on how hair looks when you draw it. And I'm not 100% certain I like where this is going yet, but we'll see. So, we'll just... And I don't do it this way every time. This is just, a very basic, because people wanted to know how I do the detailed hair. So this is the basics of how I do detailed hair. And a very lazy version of it, too, because I'm doing this kind of fast. So. Also, around the head and stuff, you see this darker shadow right here. That's because your face creates a shadow for your hair as well. So that can also factor into, how your hair looks when you do things, or don't do things, or whatever. And this is the part I hate. Doing the crease. I hate this. I hate this area right here. This is, my least favorite part of hair. Because you have to part it. You have to separate it. And it goes two different directions, and if you don't do it right, it looks crummy, but if you do it wrong, it still looks crummy, and it, no matter how you do it, I feel like it looks crummy. I hate this part of the hair. And maybe there's an artist out there who can do it better than me. Maybe they're like, you're an idiot. You're doing this the so complex way. And there's, a super simple way to do it. But, I just do it by hand. I just sit here and, doodle this out. And, hate myself for it. I do. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I also hate these little curves in the hair right here. Those are annoying, too. But, yeah. And as you can see, I don't really draw onto the highlights. I add a couple of lines onto my highlights, but I mostly just kind of leave my highlights alone. Because I'm going to add something lighter into those later. These dark strands are only for the dark parts of the hair. We'll add lighter strands here soon. And, like, the other thing I hate about this is, like, this runs 2 different directions is the other thing I hate. And so you have to kind of, like, work with those directional nuances, I guess. Like, I hate this. Especially this side. Because, like, I'm not really sure I want to make it look completely... And you've got to make it look round because your hair isn't flat. It rotates. But, like, I hate this crease right here. It makes me hate my life. I'm not even kidding. Like, I'm not over-exaggerating. I, like, hate that crease. Like, you'd think maybe take it slower, but no, slower just makes it look stupid, too. Like, I hate this thing. Odd. People are like, why didn't you go to art? Like, I also get asked a lot, like, why don't I go to art school and stuff? Instead of bitching about this crease, I'm gonna do this. I didn't go to college for art because I felt like it was a waste of a degree. I know how to draw already. So, I don't, like, in anything I don't know, I can literally go YouTube. Like, how do you do this? Someone on YouTube has already posted a video. Somebody else knows how to do this already, because everybody, surprisingly, likes to share their skills. It's almost like we all want to show off. So, you know, everyone's like, hey, this is how you do it. I already know. I will teach the rest of you. It's a community of freaking learning. Like, even my grandfather uses YouTube. Shout out to you, Grandpa. Because he works on cars. And, like, anytime he doesn't know something about a car, he goes on YouTube. And YouTube goes, this is how you deal with it. And my grandpa goes, okay. And then he goes back to his shop. Because Grandpa's smart. Okay. So, there's some basic outline. And I'm not going to, like... I'm going to actually make it soft light. Like, usually I do overlay, but I'm actually going to do soft light on this one just because it's driving me insane. And I'm not ever going to just use one layer of these freaking lines, because if you do, it just makes it look cruddy somehow, in my opinion. Like, no matter how you do it, it always makes it look cruddy if you don't add multiple layers of this. And I'm going to go through and actually blur the layers now, because you don't want hard lines into that open area. You want soft lines. Especially up here, I'm going to blur, because fuck you. I'm already done with you. I hate your existence still. And so I'm just gonna kind of go through and take my little blur tool. As you can see, I'm blurring it differently. There's also a tool to blur things, but that, like, it's not as easy to blur with that one as it is the other one. So, there we go. And so now it's blurred a little bit, and you can still kind of see that it's there, but, like, the lines are very much removed from the rest. And now I'm going to add a layer, and I'm going to do the same thing with a soft light, and I'm going to add white lines. I've done black lines, now we're going to add white lines. I know, shocker. And these lines are going to be over, I know, this is going to be amazing, the hair, or the light part of the hair. Mostly. Like 99%. I hate doing the light part of the hair too. It's another, like, the dark part, you like go from like a dark spot and then kind of go outwards. The light, you just kind of start in the middle, so you have to make both ends look like they're elongated. So this kind of makes the hair have a sheen to it. As you can see, it's already giving that little highlight we gave it already a nice little realistic touch. And just layering like this really, I'm not kidding, it really helps the hair. And you don't need to press hard with your tablet tools. You don't need to go overboard and add a ton of lines and make them overlap all the time. You just need that light feathering of lines that makes it look like the hair is actually highlighted and that you can see the light on it. And so I've included the highlight here, so I'm actually going to give it a little bit of a harder edge right there. And then we're going to come down here. And the part I really hate about highlights is because they're really tricky right around like curves and bends, because you have to know how to like curve the hair so it looks like it's flowing natural and the light is hitting it naturally without making it look flat. And I don't know, maybe I just have a hard time with that, but like I hate moving my wrist in that certain way. And people say, well, you should move your shoulder. Well, I don't move my shoulder. I'm a picky artist, okay? I do things a certain way. I've done it that way all my life. It has worked for me. Shush. But, so this is how I do this. And it just kind of, like I said, it adds another layer of depth and detail and blah blah blah. All the fun things you need in hair, depth and detail. And the white, like, people say that white might not be the best color to use for highlighting and stuff because it's not the color of the hair. Whether you like it or not, we all have blonde or white hairs on our heads. And we all have, like, black looking hairs. Well, maybe not black, but, like, really dark colors. And our hair isn't made up of, like, one solid color. It's layers, it's variations, it's degrees. Depending on how the light catches it, it might be darker or lighter. So, just keep that in mind when you do hair, because adding the light hair helps highlight the darker parts of the hair, and blah blah blah. And like semantics. I feel like that's all this is semantics. So, we're just going to go through. And, again, like, if you want things to be darker, you add a larger clumping of hair. You want things to be lighter, same thing. You add more white to the area. And yada yada. So that gives it highlight. So now the highlight is done. But you've noticed it's still, at a distance, does not look realistic. We're not done. Not by a long shot. This is where my two favorite tools come in. I am now going to do color burn and color dodge. What color burn does is it takes whatever color you have, like my dark purple here, and it makes it darker. Ta-da! And I'm going to actually use my brush for this. And this is where I add a good portion of the layering. So color burn goes in and it makes things darker. Obviously, I just said that. And you don't actually have to do these in any particular order. You can do these in the order you like, but I like it doing it in this order. So color burn goes in and it makes things darker, so you add more depth to the hair. This also makes it so those little strands you drew earlier that like looked kind of iffy, you can kind of hide them. You can like go through and like darken that area and just kind of be like, that doesn't exist anymore, instead of trying to erase it and draw again, because screw that. Nobody wants to do that. Nobody's got time for that. Somebody pull up a meme and deal with that. Anyways. And so you can kind of go through and add little minute details to the hair this way as well. This is another way of getting the shading to look more realistic and more happy and yada yada yada. And it also, as you can see, you can play with it and make it go over the highlight and make the highlight have some certain degree of other types of shading as well. So we're just going to go through and go in and kind of edit things. So it's not all about those fine lines. Like, the fine lines help. They definitely add that little bit of oomph to the hair that make it look realistic. Like, even just looking at it, you can see the fine lines. And I'm probably going to go through and redo the dark ones because I think I blurred them a little more than I had intended originally. So, but until then, we're just going to do a basic kind of like, here's the hair, here's it blurred, blah blah blah. And so that kind of adds a shadow, and we're going to add a shadow right there as well, because that will kind of give the hair that little flare that we were looking for earlier, but I didn't quite get the way I wanted. And now here's how I get the crease to look a little less stupid. That crease that I hate so much. Ta-da! This is how I get it to look less stupid. It still looks stupid. Like, no matter how I do hair, I always hate this crease. And so, there we go. And now it looks a little bit more natural. Plus, you can't really see into it because it's so dark. Ha 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 ha. Cheater. I know. I'm the worst. I cheat. But you know what? It's my art. I can cheat if I want. What's that song by Lana Del Rey? I can cry if I want to. It's my party, I can cry if I want to, yada yada. Yeah, exactly. It's my art, I can cheat if I want to. So there we go. And actually, kind of like the way I have this right now actually adds like a blue tone to it, which I'm really digging. This, I feel like every time I do art, it's very experimental. Like, it doesn't ever go the exact same way every freaking time. In fact, it argues with me 99.9% of the time. 99.9% of the time, I hate my art. It's that 1% of the time that you see me post online and I'm like, hey, I did a thing. So now, we're getting to a point where the hair is actually starting to look good. And like I told you, I was going to go back, and before I do the highlight again and edit the highlight, I'm actually going to go back and edit this little, not that little gem, this little gem that adds the black marks to the hair. But instead of doing it on the layer I already have, I'm going to go through and I'm actually going to add a new layer to add the black, because I want it to be there, but I want it to be different than the other layers. So we're going to go through, and as you can see, like, now that you can see the other layers, it kind of like, it blends together a little bit better to the point where it's not as easy to distinguish, I guess. And like, adding these little tiny marks really helps accentuate the hair and really helps give it that little bit of life that we needed to make it feel more realistic. And like I said, in the darker parts you want to add more strands, in the lighter parts you want to add less strands, and blah blah blah. Heard me say it earlier, don't need to say it again, I don't think. So like, this just really adds that oomph. And you don't have to go through and re-add these dark lines. This is just something I end up doing a lot because I end up over blurring them because I'm dumb. Like, I always end up forgetting that the shadowing will fix the little tiny mistakes I made. And then I'm like, I need to go through and add dark lines again because I'm an idiot. And then I do, because I wasted effort. So, that's that. For the record, I don't actually think I'm an idiot. I think I've said that several times in this video. I've called myself stupid. I'm not actually, I don't think I'm actually stupid. I'm just very self-deprecating because it puts, it alleviates some of my narcissism. Which, if you don't know the word narcissism, that's probably a good thing. It makes me look better. So, just gonna go through and add these little tiny details to the hair to make the hair look more realistic. And like, you can, even just like seeing this amount, you can probably already tell. And the hair kind of gives itself shape after a while. Like, you can kind of see where you want to add darker or lighter lines just by the way it flows and the way you've already drawn it. And that's always kind of nice. I always like that part. Actually, I especially like that part because it makes my life so much easier. There we go. And like, if you use a really heavy hand on these lines, you're gonna find the effect is not as light as you want. You want to actually use very soft strokes. Like, I'm very lightly holding this pen and just kind of letting my hand do as it will with the stroke, more than like forcing it, because if you force it, it ends up looking really bad really fast. And you kind of get used to the motion after a while. Like, you get used to your hand kind of just willing itself to do as it will. So this kind of adds that like really strong depth that you were looking for. that's what people wanted to see earlier when I was doing this, that I didn't fully get to show them through just like showing them my art. It's one thing. Through showing them how I do my art, it's another. So this is kind of that, this is how I do it, please enjoy kind of moment. And like I said, there's no right or wrong way to do art. Everybody kind of has a variation. I think growing up I got told, like, you know, this is how you have to do it a lot. But I don't really like that. I don't appreciate that view, because there's no right or wrong way to do anything. I think there's variation, and everybody seems to disagree with me on that. They're like, no, you have to do it this way. You have to do it this way. You're doing it wrong. How are you doing it wrong? Like, it's not wrong. It's just not your way. Like, please get off my back. And, oh, you know why? You know why I'm having such a hard time? I've been blending it. I haven't been blurring it. Blurring helps. Blending is annoying. Bam. Bam. And, like, you can really go into finite detail with your art this way. And I find that part relaxing. Like, you can really detailize, blah, blah, blah. Words. English. I can speak. You can really go into finite detail with your art on this. And that is probably the best part. Like, it's so relaxing just to kind of go through and do that. Just to add those really hardcore details that you might not get otherwise, because you didn't think about it otherwise. And I like that part. That's my favorite part about it. It's just being able to see, in the end, your efforts paid off, because you went through all those little tiny details you might have otherwise forgotten about. And for the record, anime hair is not a lot different. Like, when I do anime hair, or like lighter hair, I just skip this layer, this layer, this layer, and this layer. Wait. And that layer. And I do stuff like that. Like, I just have the basic layers. So these layers below it just give it more depth and prettiness and blah blah blah. So as you can see, as you like get really close in on my art here, it's not perfect. In fact, the lines look kind of in a lot of areas. But that's the fun thing. You can make it so people can't look this close. And that's what I do a lot. So I can see these little tiny imperfections, but other people may not necessarily be able to see them. So if you're not happy with your art, like, this close, don't make the drawing that big. Like, use lower frame pixel rate. It helps. It really, really does. And that's something nobody will tell you. If you don't like how close up your art can get, make it smaller. Literally change the canvas size. Do whatever you want. Like, it's not that big a deal. Nobody's going to judge you. It's your art. You can make it whatever size you want to make it. That's the nice part about it being your art. And what are they going to do? Tell you no? I mean, you're the one that drew it. Okay. Now, I've done that. I've gone through and I've added more, finite lines. Now I'm going to go through and add the last, another highlight kind of thing. Like, I really like the highlight I have going on here, but I'm going to add a color dodge layer. And I like the color dodge layer. Actually, you know what? I'm actually going to add a glow. I'm going to add a glow layer. Usually I add a color dodge, but today I'm going to add a glow. So the glow layer basically just takes everything we did with the light layer and does it again. Except, more. It makes it brighter. As if we needed that. We so needed that. Everybody needs a little glow in their life. It's kind of like adding sparkles. Everybody needs sparkles. Everybody hates sparkles, but everybody needs a little bit of sparkle. So I'm just going to go through and do. In case you're wondering why I'm not particularly caring about the lines right now, or how thick they are, or how they look, that is because I'm going to blur it. Because this line, this layer, it's not supposed to be perfect, it's just supposed to be there. Except when it gets thick like that. Those I will erase. Because those look awful. How could an artist let that be in their art? I mean, honestly. Nope. Okay, that still looks bad. Hold on. We're gonna do it this way. We're gonna do it from the top to the bottom. Oh, right. Bam. Actually, I'm gonna make that really thick. And we're gonna do this, actually. Hold on. We're gonna do it this way. And you might think, well, that looks terrible. Well, yes, I know. Give me a bit. It will not look terrible when I'm done. I hope. I say that now, but, like, maybe I shouldn't, like, get your hopes up, because that's just wrong with me. Okay, so we have all these highlights, right? We're gonna go in here, and we're gonna take our blur tool again. And we're just gonna... Nope, don't like it. Okay, we're gonna take our blend tool, and we're gonna fix it. No, not to that extent. Calm down, you. See, this is why I had it on blend. I remember now. I don't always, like, remember why I use certain tools, but, like, sometimes I do, and then I get all happy. Because I'm like, oh yeah, that made sense. I wasn't just being completely psycho that day. And so this makes it a lot lighter and gives it that, like, extreme sheen, if you're into that kind of thing. If not, you can, like, lighten the sheen by blurring it more. Or you can go here and add color dodge, which changes it again. So color dodge just makes it different on its own, merit-based, blah blah blah. Color dodge changes it in its own way as well. So depending on how you want the color to look, and you can play around with those filters as well. That's my favorite part of that. Is you can like go through and you're like, I don't like that, so I'm gonna change it to this, and maybe you don't like that, so you change it again. And that's always the nice part. And maybe I don't want that color so bright, so I will actually move it down below my dark layer. Or you can put it above the dark layer. Like, see, putting it below or above the dark layer changes it again. So it really just depends. And glow dodge also changes it. God, that's bright. Yeah, I don't think I like glow dodge. Like, if I wanted it to look really plastic, I'd do glow dodge. I think I like color dodge, because, like, it changes... Like, it just changes the color, you know? And I don't have to have it that bright, either. I can actually change the luminous on it. And actually, I'm going to go through here and check that. And that's actually what's making it extremely shiny, is that layer. So, we're going to go through and edit that layer first. And then go through again and add another layer, because I am very nitpicky about how I do my hair. And this is where I'm going to add the color, the glow. Hold on, I'm actually going to do it with this. Quit your shit. Shiny! This is going to be where it becomes shiny, in a way that I like and not hate. So if you're wondering why I'm doing, like, the super varied sizes, it's because if you ever look at hair when it's shiny, it's never in a flat line. It's kind of wavy because different strands sit on top of each other or, like, under each other. And so when it shines in, like, this wavy pattern that we all find kind of pretty. At least I find it kind of pretty. Maybe you don't. But I do. So, since that's the case... And as you can see, I'm not really zooming in right now, because if I zoom in, I'm going to hate my life. So we'll do that in a second. And this, I'm using my brush tool for this. Because Because my brush tool gives it like a freaking blur, but it gives it a different kind of blur that I can kind of work with a little easier. So this is how I do ultra super shiny hair. In case anyone was extremely wondering. Like, I'm not exactly satisfied with this area, so I'm gonna go back through and edit the dark spot in a little bit. Just a second. Okay. Now, this is the part where I hate my life. See, and like, if you zoom in, again, it makes me cringe. This is why we don't zoom in very often. Because you will cringe at your own art. From here, it looks great. From here, it looks decent. You zoom in, it hurts. That's how my art looks. I don't know. Am I the only artist that's like that? Like, if you zoom in on your art, you're like, oh my god. Or are other artists just like, no, I actually, like, I make it decent from the foundation up. Like, I'm not lazy about that. Because I'm totally lazy about that. I will not lie. I cannot tell a lie. I'm lazy as hell. Okay, we're gonna go through and add a couple more lines. Just to, like, really cement the lines in our lives that I'm not quite sure what they fully represent, but they're there. And see, now that I have this under the light layer, I can kind of go through and add these lines without them looking terribly terrible. So they actually add like more depth than what they did before. So that's nice. This is why I go through and add like several layers of dark lines, because I can kind of reimagine, reinvent, and re-edit them. Like, go back through and be like, yeah, I didn't like that one, so I'm gonna go redo it again, and again, and again, and again, because I'm very nitpicky. And I said I didn't like this, so I'm gonna go and darken it a little bit, not extremely, just enough that it like knows that I hate it. Because I do, I hate it. Oh. Oh, I was using the pencil. That's why they were so soft and nice. For the record, the pencil and the pen are different. They make the lines differently. So if you want to make softer lines from the get-go, use the pencil. Pencil is your friend in that case. Which, I don't know why I didn't use it from the get-go on this. I think it was because I was just kind of like thinking about like going through the motions, you know? So I didn't think about using the pencil until just now. But the pencil is your friend, and apparently makes it look more natural than anything else I've done so far. Haha. There, we learned something new today. We both did, because I'm an idiot. See, I did it again. God, I hate this section of hair. Like, look at that. It's just so awful. I hate it. 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 I hate everything about it. I just want it to go away, so I'm going to make it darker. So it looks less stupid. It's gonna look stupid no matter what I do, but like, I'm gonna make it look less stupid. And that's the other thing, you can make parts of your hair darker or lighter as you wish. It's your hair. Do what you want to. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I like that a little better. Not great, but like a little better. And usually I play with this for quite some time. Like, I don't ever get this right on the first try or the first go round. Like, this is obviously a very quickly done hair. It's only take me like an hour maybe to do this. This is just very basic work. You can play around and do as you feel like doing all you want. That's the nice part about it. Is like you don't have to do it right the first time. You can play and play and play. And did I edit this onto another layer? I did! Oh, I'm a terrible person. That explains so much. Okay, we're gonna go through and blur. No! Wait, no. No, I don't want it to be blue. Blue is bad. Okay. Go through and find that layer. Strands are on. Aha! Found a good portion of them, and we're just gonna kind of. Those don't exist anymore, it's fine. And that's the other thing you can do. You can just kind of nope your hair, which I do often. Color burn. And actually, I'm going to go through my color burn and actually go through and do it a little bit more detailed. Because, like, last time I just kind of went, here it is. This is what we're doing. But I think this time I wanted to do a little bit darker. Kind of add that, like, the depth I was missing earlier. That I was complaining about. I don't think I was complaining about it. I was complaining about it in my head, at least. I don't know if I was complaining about it out loud, but in my head, it was a problem. My body. And I don't know if I want it color burned. I actually might just want it darkened. Glow dodge. No, wait. Vinegar burn. I don't like the burr. Blue. Subtract maybe? Nope, doesn't help. Hard light. Nope. Difference. And see, this is why we vivid. Linear. Pin light. Normal. Nope. Normal doesn't work. Okay. Multiply. We'll do multiply. Fuck it. Now we'll do color dodge. Or color burn. Color burn! Yeesh. So picky. Hair likes to argue. And this is where I'm gonna go in and do that darker because I just don't like it or how it looks or its family or its face. Especially its face. That last part is especially true. Normally I'd be bothered by all the blue in this hair, but like, shades of blue are okay and purple, I guess. Whoa, that was too dark. I like when my pen does those little glitches where it's just like, all the ink! No, I don't want all the ink. Go away. I need to find the layer that has those, like, smudge marks on it. Found it. That was easy. We're just gonna get rid of those. Those just make the hair look crappy. There we go. And, like, see, that adds a very, like, very dark tone to it, I guess. I kind of want to soften it, so I'm actually going to take all the highlights and the lowlights and blah, blah, blah. And, like, soften them. A lot. Like, a hell of a lot. Like to 60 or so %. soft light ones I need full. That's the light I need to really edit. See if I made that one brighter. But I don't want it brighter. I want it darker. Or, yeah. So that makes it a little bit more realistic. And so you can play around with the color and the value and blah, 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 all you want. It's really up to you on how you want your hair. You can make it look more plastic or you can make it look more light. So this was just my basic tutorial of how to do hair. As you can see here, I used quite a bit of layers. That is just because I like to play around with layers, because that's how I am. So, with that, I am going to call this one a finished product. How long did this take me anyways? There's like usually some type of like time elapsed. Oh yeah, 56 minutes. It took a little bit of time. Anyways, so that was the hair tutorial. I hope you guys liked it. That's kind of how I do hair. That's the finished product. So thank you, and have a good one, guys.